You can't promise the list and go, guys, what are you worried about this list we promised you guys?
I know. It's so funny how clearly they got the list and went, guys, who even cares? Like, they obviously the whole time leading up to it were like, that we're going to get that fucking list. And then one day they were like, what are we even talking about?
Also, you get the list and you go, me 7 times?
Me again? Son of a bitch. Everything bad that's ever happened to me, I've gone, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
With actual conviction.
Yeah.
Dude, when I got canceled from SNL, agent called me and was like, did you say that? And I was like,
no.
I would never say that. They sent me the video. I said, guys, there's floods in Texas. What are you guys even talking about?
All right, so in that short clip right there, Shane and Matt explained what's going on with the Epstein files better than Tim Dillon or Alex Jones did during this whole hour-long emergency podcast they just did dedicated to explaining what's going on with the Epstein files. I mean, Tim still just keeps coming up with all these other excuses, but at least Alex said Trump's name is in the files, but of course the deep state put it there. And he kept saying he's done research and Trump is associated with Epstein, but he didn't do anything that inappropriate with him. But there were a couple moments where Alex was like, but maybe he did do something. So Alex was trying his best with the mental gymnastics to try to blame anyone but Trump. But I don't know how much longer he can keep this up. He seemed really stressed out and he kept smoking cigarettes the whole time. And it sounds like he might be starting to feel he's complicit in the cover-up. Also, at one point, he hinted that the White House was trying to bribe him to either stop talking about Epstein or to push Trump's narrative about it. Just like they're doing with Tim, it seems like they're trying to bribe him with food, which seems to be somewhat working for now at least. I mean, he's obviously talking about how bad this looks for Trump and everything, but he never really blames him directly. And he keeps talking about money laundering still and how Trump is just scared for his life and how the deep state is trying to cover it up and all that stuff. He also admitted that he did talk to JD Vance. That's who he had dinner with last week. And JD must have really pushed this money laundering narrative on him because before that dinner, I don't think Tim really talked about this aspect much or at all. But then the last podcast he did after the dinner, he spent like 10 minutes ranting about how Trump should come out and say he used Epstein for money laundering, and that's why he's scared to release the files. Then during this episode, in the beginning, Tim brought it up again. When Alex was talking about how Trump is imploding over this, Tim randomly starts talking about money laundering. And then Alex is like, yeah, the larger issue was the money laundering.
Having to report this, that this is beyond insane.
Yeah.
And it's like Trump blowing his feet off with a 12-gauge shotgun.
Well, we know that this was not only a blackmail operation, but it was also a money laundering operation. And we know that Jeffrey Epstein was working for billionaires like Les Wexner and many others and moving money around the world, making sums of money disappear.
So I agree with you, very astute. I was going to make that point. This isn't even so much about human trafficking as it is about the money laundering. And it was more than just trafficking underage girls. That was kind of like a side hors d'oeuvre or little rider. The larger issue was money laundering.
So it's just weird that Tim keeps bringing this up all of a sudden. And obviously they do still talk about the blackmail and how bad this looks for Trump's administration and how it looks like they're trying to cover up the files. But then they spend the whole time just kind of beating around the bush and trying to blame it on the deep state, Israel, Trump's administration, Trump being scared for his life, and Trump's donors pressuring him, which I agree Epstein, I'm sure, did work for Israeli intelligence. But if Trump is very pro-Israel and his administration is full of Zionists, and he partied with and was good friends with the guy who ran a blackmail operation for Israel, what does that say? I mean, it seems like the obvious guess would be maybe Israel has blackmail on Trump. But Tim never brings this up as a possibility. Instead, he thinks Trump is scared for his life and his donors want him to cover up the files. And now also Alex claims they have dirt on a member of Trump's administration, the guy who is neighbors with Epstein. So that is a possibility. But why would Trump pick him if that's the case, if the guy was neighbors with Epstein? And Alex said he got this information from somebody at the FBI. Apparently they called him and told him Israel's blackmailing Howard Lutnick. But also Alex says it's not like Lutnick did anything wrong though. So I think Alex is trying to use him as a scapegoat, but also doesn't want to completely throw him under the bus here.
And I don't believe from my sources, and this is high level FBI, that it is Trump, but it's people in his administration, including a top financial advisor that's heavily involved.
A top financial advisor. Are we talking about Epstein's neighbor?
We are. No, let's just say you brought it out. You're smart to figure it out. Nobody else was. I'm sure it's true.
Yeah.
they're blackmailing him with Ludnick. I've confirmed that from the FBI. And it's not that Ludnick did anything wrong, but yeah. And, yeah. This is the leverage that Israel is using over Trump right now to do all this. And my information is it's not Trump himself. He's just all this other stuff to try to embarrass him, beauty pageants, flying twice on his plane from New York to Palm Beach. And again, Trump was all release it till he got that meeting with Netanyahu with everybody.
Well, a lot of the fundraising came from very big donors, people like Miriam Adelson and stuff like that have a lot of political connections in Israel, obviously. And I think there's probably pressure from that avenue as well, of people that spent a lot of money to help Trump get elected that are probably telling him, let's make this go away. Let's not have this be an embarrassment or worse.
They walk into the trap, and now, oh, by the way, that stuff we raided from the Democrats, it's all about you. And it doesn't mean it's real. I already predicted it's recycled. It's recycled BS about Trump. And that's why I think that's why we're seeing the fit.
Do you think there's any part of him that says they'll kill me because they tried to, they maybe tried to in Pennsylvania, where.
And even though Alex was doing mental gymnastics, trying to blame anyone but Trump, it seems like he might jump off the Trump train soon. But he's in a tough spot because also he says Trump is like his lifeboat. But I don't know how much longer he can keep this up. There were times where he kind of had the same take as Shane and Matt, but he thinks Trump looked at the files and realized the deep state put his name in there, which is the narrative Trump has been pushing. But then also he would occasionally be like, maybe Trump did do some stuff with Epstein that he shouldn't have.
They're going to drop a dime. Oh, we've really got the real file. So Trump's like, yeah, go get it. Grab it. Get him. They get the file. Then the FBI, we confirm this, looks at it. It's got all this stuff about Trump in it, whether it's true or not. Bondi and them come back and say to Trump, it's got all this about you. Then you see the deer in the headlights interview 2 months ago with Bongino and Kash Patel on Fox. Trump has learned, or this is a big possibility, they've spiked it with poison pills. They're not just going to take out bad stuff about them. They're going to add all the innuendo, all the Jane Does, all the stuff recycled in. Then Trump comes out through social last Saturday, 8-9 days ago, Saturday before last, and says, hey, they control the file. Not saying Epstein doesn't exist or wasn't bad. That's how the media spun it. He says they put a bunch of bull in there, which I was even able to predict. So that's one track of what it is and why he acted so scared and hysterical. The other track is he was a big playboy. He was hanging out with Epstein. He was running beauty pageants. Maybe he did some stuff he wasn't supposed to.
Sure.
And he had some deep, and now they're bringing it out. So now the jury's out on Trump.
And one of the most telling signs here is just how desperate the administration seems to be. Meeting with Tim and then calling all these other influencers to try to do damage control. It sounds like a disaster. And halfway through this podcast, Alex is like, man, Trump is making this really hard for me. It sounds like Alex is torn between just trying to tell the truth and helping Trump do damage control. So it's a tough spot, and you could tell he's starting to feel the pressure. Like, he even admitted that the White House called him and said, what do you want? Like, insinuating, is there anything we can do to get you to stop talking about this or help us push a narrative? Which is probably what they did with Tim Dillon, and he asked for a seafood dinner with J.D. Vance. So I guess we'll see how long the White House wants to pay for Tim's dinners. They aren't cheap. Tim loves to eat, so hopefully they added his dinner budget to the big, beautiful bill. If not, they might lose him. So also it seems like Alex is worried about being an accomplice in the cover-up too. He asked him about that as well.
Almost perfectly on track for and then it just started going sideways, and now it's moving very quickly the wrong direction, and I have no interest in them failing. My God, the Democrats are literally trying to put me in prison and suing me and all this other. I mean, it's like my lifeboat I'm in is Trump, and then he's poking holes in the bottom of the boat. And I can tell you a lot more. I mean, I've had the White House call up and be like, last week, what do you want?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you think I'm doing all this just to get something? I've never asked for anything. I want you to do what you were elected to do.
Yeah.
So it went from, you're bad, we're going to have our influencers attack you 2 weeks ago to, what do you want?
Yeah. Well, they want it to go away. They want this to go away.
How are you processing this? Because I'm not a lesser two evils guy, but overall, Trump administration is a lot better, I think, than Democrats. But at the same time, there's an integrity issue because I become an accomplice by extension,
Agreed.
Tim Dillon,
Agreed.
if I join in on the cover-up.
Agreed. I process it the same way you process it. I think securing the border having having the American working class regain ground.
So this shit just keeps getting crazier every day. And I'll give credit to Tim and Alex. At least they still talk about Epstein, because obviously the administration would love for them just to stop talking about it completely. But also that would be way too suspicious. But I guess we'll see where things go from here. So make sure you subscribe. And if you want to make sure you stay up to date with everything, check out the Patreon. I post a ton of extra content on there. And I recently just talked about Sam Hyde's crash out on Harlan Williams. That was wild. And I've also talked about how Epstein associates try to use Rogan's podcast to vindicate themselves, and how the tech elites use it to promote their agenda, like Mark Zuckerberg tried earlier this year, and it was a complete disaster. It was so funny. So make sure you check it out. There'll be a link in the description.
There's no video of President Trump sucking a ding-dong. And so what if there was? That's a lot better than World War III, Owen. I never sucked any ding-dongs. But I'll tell you, if they were going to blackmail me to start World War III about one, I'd say, hey, I sucked a golf ball through a freaking garden hose.